Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Cornwell, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I think both teams played at certain times very well, and at certain times I think they would agree they played about as bad as, or pitched it about as bad as they could, and we turned right around and tried to outdo them. To their kids' credit, they kept battling. It took us a couple innings to get over that.
I thought the challenge of rebuilding this was appealing to me. It kind of goes hand in hand with who I am, what my life's about, taking on challenges, doing things that people say you can't do, and I'm having the time of my life doing it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a very, very busy Wednesday evening. We are full of it tonight, maybe more so than usual.
We usually are, yeah.
And we are just
fill in the blank,
loaded, backed up, jammed up, got great stuff coming your way. That was Frank Martin you heard from. He met with the media today. We'll hear from him at the bottom of the hour, and we'll tell you more about what he had to say. He had some interesting points to bring up about his team. Don Staley scheduled to join us in about 7 or 8 minutes from the bus on the way to Greensboro, heading up Tobacco Road to take on the Tar Heels. Friday night, 7 o'clock, Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. Dabo Sweeney will belong. The Tigers scrimmage today inside Death Valley. We'll hear from him coming up at about 6:45. So very busy opening hour of the program. That's what we like to do here on Sports Talk.
Did they run down the hill before the scrimmage?
Don't think so.
Oh, okay.
The running down the hill process is a very special moment.
Oh, okay.
It's not to be
that's
abused.
right. You got to take the bus and go around. Plus, you got to take the glass.
Are you making light of Clemson's longstanding tradition that dates back to the mid-'60s?
I'm thinking about that rock.
Is the rock still there? Did they move it somewhere to get a better protector for it?
They removed it from the hill for the time being.
Yeah.
Until they
that kind of makes, put it in D-Rad's office until the season starts and bring it out on game days and have a whole thing where they put the rock in place. People are going after it.
But but part of the attraction is having the rock out there. That's part of Clemson's history. It's part of what Tiger fans like to see. They go to Death Valley. They want to see the hill. They want to see the new buildings, and they want to see the rock.
The rock.
They want to have their picture taken by the rock.
I still say you have to practice that. So that's part of the practice routine, in my opinion. Could you imagine a 350-pound man and you say, well, run down that hill? Man, you got to be very careful.
Well,
somebody can get injured.
They've all run down the hill. They do it during recruiting. As part of the grab in recruiting at Clemson, having the guys run down the hill on the visit or walk down the hill. And I do believe they practice that in the fall when Dabo puts them through that first game run through of everything that they do leading up to a game, how they come out of the locker room, how they get on the buses, how they run down the hill,
especially in cleats. Strange things happen when people run, and they say, why can't a football kicker make a cut like that?
Well, I'll tell you what takes a lot of nerve
on them, and then they say, oh, now we see why.
A lot of the Clemson players running down the hill will jump because there's a hump, and they want to get up in the air. But with pads on and those cleats, you're right. What if some have fallen and even hurt themselves? Be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, the Steak Man, Graham Pope. A lot of basketball coming your way here, a lot of Gamecock basketball coming your way. Over the next little bit, we'll hear from Frank Martin at the bottom of the hour. He'll fill you in on his thoughts on his season and how it went. He believes it was a season of progress, and we'll talk about some of the players that he mentioned at his press conference today. Right now, we welcome in USC women's coach Dawn Staley on the bus heading up Tobacco Road to get ready to take on the Tar Heels Friday night in the Sweet 16. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the journey so far, as you guys like to say. How excited are you personally and your team about getting the chance to take on the Tar Heels again in this setting and get some revenge from last year?
Truly excited. I think just to be still in the NCAA tournament, because a lot of teams aren't where we are. So we're excited to play in the second weekend of March Madness, and we look forward to Friday night.
This North Carolina team, what a game they had the other night. I'm sure you've watched it, watched the film. What'd you think about the way that they built their lead? Then they lost their lead, but they found a way to win it with a great shot at the end.
Well, it was a great game. North Carolina came out the gates and pounded that ball inside where they had the advantage, and then they shot themselves out of it in the second half, and then they those freshman Jamie Terry came through and hit a game-winning basket. But it was really a good game. It was a game of a lot of quick transition. It was a good pace to their game, and hopefully ours won't be that pace, but a pace in which will allow us to build a lead and win the game.
Now, you're going to be in the state of North Carolina, playing North Carolina. You know where I'm going. Be careful with the Zebras. Did you see how quickly they left the court when that shot went in? I mean, would you not have demanded, if you were the Ohio State coach, some time left?
Yeah, that was kind of strange to not review it, because we're in a year of reviews.
Yeah.
When you're under 2 minutes and you're under a minute in each game, they review stuff that is the right call on the floor. And I don't mean to just talk about the officials that way, but that was strange that it wasn't reviewed and taken a closer look just to see if they had an opportunity to play again.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure funny things happen in the state of North Carolina when you play the Tar Heels, men or women. It goes back a long time. The key is don't put yourself in that position to let funny things happen.
I know. I hope with how many people that we're anticipating coming to Greensboro, meaning our fans. We anticipate having a lot of fans there, so hopefully we'll create a home court. We don't know where the game is being played.
Exactly.
As far as the mental aspect of the game, Coach, obviously you concentrate on your players running their sets, doing what you like to do. But do you have to talk about when you get into postseason play, and you see it in the men's and women's game, that it gets a lot more physical as you move up from regular season to the Sweet 16 and on further? Has your team looked at it, and mentally, how are they handling the physicality of postseason play so far?
Yeah, I think our team is handling it pretty well, because as you know, we play in the toughest conference in the country, so we've seen all different types of style of play. Physical games, the sit back, sagging man or zone. Some people like to get up and down. So we've seen the best of what everybody has. So whatever type of style of play we'll face in the NCAA tournament, I feel real good about having already seen that. With all the many talented teams in our conference.
Dawn, I know you guys faced North Carolina twice last year. Different team with the Tar Heels now. I know DeShields has moved on to Tennessee, but What do you take from your matchups against them last year? And, who do they remind you of in terms of teams that you face this year?
Well, I think they are a very different basketball team without Diamond. When you lose someone like Diamond, and you lose instant offensive player that could, pretty much dictate the pace of the game. They're ashamed in the fact that their style is the same way. They approach it the same way, and they're probably getting a little bit more contributions from some different people out there. I kind of equate them to, they're a little like Tennessee in that, they like to play fast-paced basketball, and then when they're not playing fast, they like the ball in two people's hands, either Mavunga or Gray. So we got to really be conscious of making sure that we're containing, especially the two of them.
Talking with USC women's coach Dawn Staley, you mentioned Mavunga, and she's a very impressive player. She's a big person inside there to match up with your big folks. How do you like the matchup of your bigs with her?
I like our matchup with her because we can, it's only one of her, and we got about 4 or 5 of us that we can rotate in and give her different looks if need be. I think the most important thing for us is to, exhaust her. Make her play every second that she's out there on the floor, exhaust her, because they don't have anyone like her that can come in and have the impact that she has on a basketball game. So our post players have to dominate on both sides of the ball, especially when she's involved.
Coach, got to ask you, your first games postseason at home, you guys celebrated a little bit with the fans, and you guys left the nets up. Was there anything psychological to that?
No, I mean, we didn't win a championship. I think you cut the nets down when you win a championship, and we have yet to do that. We do have lofty goals. A goal of ours is to get to the Final Four and win the national championship. So, at this point of the season, it's just the first and second rounds, and I don't mean to be fluid, but it's I think if we have a weekend like we just had this weekend, those nets will be coming down. But I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves because this will be a regional championship.
And Don, I got to ask you, I don't know if this is a superstition thing or not. I mean, is the Christmas tree still up? Do you still have your Christmas tree up?
Christmas tree is still up. I walk by it every single day.
Are you turning the lights on still, or is it just the tree sitting there?
Every now and after we won the SEC tournament championship, I surely lit it up, and I let it stay lit all night long. It's become somewhat of a good luck charm now.
That's great.
It's got its own Twitter feed.
I want you to know that on our website, sportstalksc.com, every week we have a poll question. Our poll question this week: who is the state's basketball player of the year? And we listed a number of players from across the state: Sindarius Thornwell, Jerron Blossomgame, Carl Cochran, Saw Nimley. You know who's leading the voting? Tiffany Mitchell.
Rightfully so.
She's got 63% of the vote from people across the state who have voted. She leads everybody.
She's I think she's had a year just individually, but as I told Tiffany Mitchell before we started this season, I said the only way that you're going to repeat as far as winning the accolades that you won last year is if our team does well. Mm-hmm. And she made sure that our team did well, and hopefully we can go a little bit further than we did last year. It only makes her name grow out there across the country.
Best of luck to you this weekend. Look forward to being up there to see you guys do well, and we'll hopefully talk to you next week about a trip to the Final Four. How sweet would that be? Thank you, Coach Dawn Staley, coach of the USC women's basketball team, with us here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back. All right, thanks again to Dawn Staley, and good luck to the USC women this weekend. In our voting, and there's still time for you to vote, Tiffany Mitchell has 63.4%. Jerron Blossom Game, 14%. Sindarius Thornwell, 6.5%. Carl Cochran, 5%. Saw Nimley, 5%. Warren Gillis, 2%. Ty Green, 1%. And let's see, somebody else got one vote in the other category.
The kid from USC Upstate?
No, that's Ty Green. He's gotten 3 votes, but I can't tell who. Show me who other is. So anyway, she's kind of running away with things at this particular time, Tiffany Mitchell, and deservedly so. She's had a great impact on the team, having a great season. Frank Martin coming up at the bottom of the hour. A few notes from his conversation with the media today. Sindarius Thornwell, he said, played most of the season with a bad case of tendonitis in both knees. He's having a procedure soon on his patella tendons. Nothing that they're going to be cutting. It's going to be a injection sort of thing to help solve the pain there. As far as the tendonitis, it's just a matter of rest to cure that. Brian Steele is having knee surgery tomorrow. Martin said if Anthony Grant does not take a head coaching job somewhere, he will go to Ray Tanner to find a way to add him to his staff in some form or fashion. T. Marcus Blanton, he's still dealing with that bad hip thing. They don't know yet if he's got that neurosis thing.
The Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson, where the bone is dead.
Yeah, there's no blood going in there. They're not sure if it's that. He is jumping and doing some things, but they're being very careful with him right now. As far as the 2 suspended players, he said he hasn't met one-on-one with any players, and thus no word on any departures from the team, including those 2 who have been suspended. I asked him at the very end of the press conference if there's any reason for the fans, for the Gamecock fans, is there any reason for them to believe there's a chance those guys will be back next year? And again, he said he hadn't talked to them. It's not something he wanted to divulge. Is there an absolute decision made here? I've seen some stuff that says, yes, the 2 are gone and won't be back. But he would not allude to that in answering that question today.
I think that's a supposition by some people because they see the list of people he's been recruiting. So they figure in numbers, they think those 2 are gone. I'm just wondering about Sindarius Thornwell and the tendonitis. He didn't talk about what caused it, did he? Because I can recall
probably just wear and tear.
Yeah, I could.
Thornwell said he was feeling it in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could recall a friend of mine who had tendonitis, but his was from the fact that the doctor said he grew so many inches within. Is Sindarius Thornwell still growing? Is that part of it?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Well, Sindarius did tell us after a game during the season that both of his knees were aching, and you could tell it takes him a while to get loose and get past that point of pain where he can play without thinking about it. Martin coming up.
I have not had any player meetings. I have not even spoken to my Friday of this week, but I'm not some coach. So everyone, when you're around everybody every day for basically 7 months, they're tired of me talking to them. I'm tired of them talking to me. So hopefully I can have better answers for you then.
Well, Frank, I know that you've never been consumed with records and win-loss and all that thing. That being said, how proud are you of this team about how they finished and did get a winning season?
I'm ecstatic with our guys. The legs weren't there.
Dumbass.
All right, back on Sports Talk. Earlier today, USC men's coach Frank Martin met with the media to recap a 17-16 season with the Gamecocks, his first winning record in his 3 years in Columbia. He sat down with us after being on the road recruiting. He's offered a junior college center. Tell you about that coming up in a little bit. But right now, here's Frank Martin, and he's answering. We've pieced some pieces together here. It's 45 minutes in total. If you want to hear it all, it's on our website, sportstalksc.com. We've put together the best of it, in our humble opinion, or what we could fit into 10 minutes or less. Here is Frank, first of all, answering a question about his feelings on the season just completed.
I'm ecstatic with our guys. I'm so happy with our staff. I'm so happy with our fans. I'm so happy with where our program's at. I'm not going to get into school A, school B, school C, because then it's to promote ourselves. Then, we're trying to take away from someone else's success. And that's not what this business is about. I don't speak about other schools when I recruit, so I'm not going to speak about other schools when it pertains to records and all that. All I can say is this: our resume stood pretty strong versus the resumes of some that did get in postseason play. If you compare numbers, when you take everything in consideration, which is what everyone that, since I've been in it, they say are the important things for consideration in postseason play. Top 30 strength of schedule in the country. 5 wins versus the top 50. 6 wins versus NCAA tournament teams. Winning record. In an unbalanced conference where not everyone plays the same teams. We played by far the strongest schedule in the SEC. When you take all those things into consideration, and then you continue to connect the dots, which are the dots I connect. I understand the person on the outside only cares about, well, they won this, lost that. I get all that. But when you're on the inside and you're trying to connect the dots because you're trying to get young kids to grow, you take into consideration the fact that we didn't have a single player in our locker room that's ever been in a winning college locker room. So not a single guy in there has a clue on how to manage success. When you take in consideration that we did find some kind of success early in our season. When we kind of hit the stumbling blocks that everybody hits, every single team hits, we didn't have a single guy in the locker room that understood how to manage that. We had to learn. When you take in consideration all the injuries and the concussions and this and that and the immaturities, and for us to be able to hold that fort down and play as strong as we did at the end of the year, with a team that really had no shot blocking, and finish, I don't know what the numbers are. I've been recruiting and enjoying my family the last 2 weeks. But top 13, 14 in the country in defensive efficiency, that's pretty good. And you return pretty much the nucleus of your team. That's pretty good. I get excited about that. I mean, am I happy with the fact that, we lost in the conference quarterfinals? No. Was I happy after the Georgia game? No. Am I happy about that today? No. But I'm proud of our guys. And, we've got a lot of work to do. We're not where we aspire to be, but we're a lot closer today than we were the day I walked foot on this campus. And I'm real proud of those guys. Our guys grew up a lot this year. They learned. The season taught us a lot of experiences to hold on to that are going to make us better for it.
Coach, you talked about the nucleus of your team returning next year. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit about just recruiting. How's that going? Is there a position of need you're targeting more so than another for this upcoming season?
The one thing that when the season there's 2 windows that I'm not concerned about, but I think we need to address in recruiting, and that's our overall athleticism and making perimeter shots. I think the guys on the team, when we refocused and we re-engaged to doing the things that we needed to do things like that, I think you saw Dwayne starting to shoot the ball better, like he did early in the year. I think you saw Sindarius starting to shoot the ball the way he did his freshman year. Not that he shot it great then, but he wasn't as bad a shooter as he was, in the early segment of the season. I think you saw Michael Carrera finally starting to take that big step forward as a player as we came down the stretch. So we got guys that are capable of making shots. We just have to learn how to stay the course, and then we have to address that in recruiting. I think those are our biggest two. Pay closer attention to hot spots as far as our roster goes.
I'm sure you've talked with Anthony Grant since his dismissal. Is there any thing that could happen on your staff that he could join you in some form? Have you discussed anything with him along those lines?
He's going to get a head job, Phil. He's too good at what he does. The question is, will he take a head job if offered? That's a question he's going to have to sit down and figure out. He's too good at what he does. Something's wrong in our society when people like him, are viewed as failures. When he makes a decision in his mind, whether or not he takes a job, obviously he has to have a job offered first, and he decides I'm not doing that, and we get deeper. If he's willing to come work with us, that's a conversation Coach Tanner and I need to have, because if there's a better human being on the planet Earth than him, I want to meet him. I haven't met him in 49 years around here.
For the season, Sindarius in one of those draft projections was a first round pick. One, has he told you that he's definitely coming back next year? And two, where did things kind of go wrong for him at times this season? Have you been able to kind of pinpoint some areas where you'd like to see him grow over the offseason?
I haven't met with him. Actually, I spoke with him, but we spoke about some other stuff. We haven't had that meeting that I have with players about their season and all that other stuff. One thing with Sin that as coaches, we don't disclose these things during the season, because then people see it as a vulnerability, opponents I'm talking about. And then we have to answer the question every single day. He played with a bad case of chronic tendonitis in both knees. And at times it was hard for him to move until he got warmed up. And coming out of games was difficult for him to get going again when you put him back in the game. That's not an excuse for the year he had. It's just reality. I was real proud of Sindarius, because most guys would have said, you know what, man, my knees hurt too much, I ain't playing. And it's not a structural thing. Anyone that's ever had tendonitis, there's only one way to cure tendonitis: rest. It's the only way. There's no surgery, rest. And he wouldn't take, practice off, because he knew we just didn't have enough guys to practice. And so in essence, a guy in basketball, no legs, can't shoot, because your shot comes from your legs. And he struggled with his legs all year. So it was hard for him to shoot the ball consistently, because, the legs weren't there.
Okay, Frank Martin from earlier today, again, 42 minutes long, the entire press conference. It's on our website, sportstalksc.com. And he's offered Connor Clifford. We'll give you more details on him coming up in recruiting. He's a 7-foot center from Saddleback Junior College, which is out in California. And not a bad-looking player statistically, about 15 points a game, about 6 rebounds a game. But you heard –
When's the last time the Gamecocks had a 7-footer?
A true 7-footer?
Ryan Stack?
Was Brandon Wallace a 7-footer?
No, but he had a wingspan of a 8-footer.
I don't know that Stack. Was he 7 foot?
6'11".
Jeff Ralston? Do you have to go back to Jeff Ralston? He's 7 feet.
6'11". Some of those guys don't like being called 7-footers. They carries a stigma to it. They think. Don't like that.
Well, good to get the first scrimmage under our belt.
And we're back at Sports Talk. Very busy hour that we are deeply into recruiting coming up. Clemson football now. The Tigers inside Death Valley for the first time this spring for a big scrimmage closed to the media and the public. Have to rely on Dabo Swinney to tell us how things went at the scrimmage today. Here he is talking to the media just a little while ago.
Well, good to get the first scrimmage under our belt. Glad we were able to get into the stadium. Weather held off, but a lot of good. I mean, you've heard me say many times, in my role, you're never really truly happy. As a position coach, you can walk off the field and say, man, my guys kicked their butt today. Or if you're an offensive coach, you say, man, the offense had a great day today. But when you're in my seat, it's never really that way when you're 100% invested. And they're all kind of your segment, if you will. But it was a good day. It was competitive, and that's what I was hoping to see. I was hoping to see really good competition. Biggest thing is guys just thinking. You have to be able to process and think, and you get everything with all the external factors removed, and put the ball down, and it's not scripted, and it's not a certain specific situation. You're just playing the game. You find out quickly who's kind of getting it and who's not quite there yet. But it was a good day. Saw some good things on both sides. I thought it was very competitive. A couple guys I thought took a little step backwards. But again, first scrimmage, first time in the environment, first time we just kind of remove all the training wheels, if you will. Kid, I thought he had a solid day. Teasdall is really, really having a good spring. Very, very encouraged with Teasdall. He is just really hadn't missed a beat since the bowl game, to be honest with you. He's been incredibly consistent. So encouraged with him. Saw some good things out of the quarterbacks today. Nick has had an outstanding spring and made some nice plays today. Had a couple of game management things today I wasn't pleased with. But he'll learn from that. But overall, he's been very, very consistent. And then, it's good to see Kelly and Tucker in that environment for the first time today. Just kind of see some natural instincts, kick in with those two. We didn't snap the ball very well today. That was disappointing. Really affected kind of the flow of the scrimmage for our second group. So we got to get a little more consistent there. And part of it is we're trying to teach some guys how to snap. We're teaching them. It's just part of the process. We got to put them out there and got to let them fail a little bit and go back to work. But too many penalties. Defense was offside several times, some undisciplined type things. Again, for a first scrimmage, spring ball, as many new guys, young guys that got in different situations and roles. Solid day.
How those young offensive linemen look out there?
Pretty good. We had some snap issues, and that really affected, again, just the overall flow of that group. But they did some good things individually. I just I try to put my eyes on a couple of them specifically, and they're going to be a really good group. It's going to be it's going to be a good offensive line. There's no doubt about that. We're our first group has really come to work every day, and they're really now that we got Joe back, these guys have demonstrated that they're just kind of at a little different level in every regard, that's what you would hope to see. You got 4 seniors and 1 redshirt sophomore in that first group, and then the rest of those guys are redshirt freshmen and true freshmen. Behind them, with the exception of Maverick, who's a redshirt sophomore. But it's just going to continue to get better. The competition is going to continue to improve their knowledge because they got the right stuff. They love it. They want to. They come to work every day it just is a lot of fun to watch that. I'm telling you, we're going to have a really, really good offensive line when it's all said and done. So I'm encouraged.
Tight end was a position that didn't have the greatest year last year. Did any of those guys catch your
Leggett
eye
had
today?
a great day today, but we're a mess at tight end right now because it's doggone the same. We got all kind of tight end depth, and then we got like 2 guys practicing, Cannon and Jordan. Jordan had a great day, and we really, really need him to show up and take that next step. This is a big year for.
I think Leggett can be a terrific tight end for them. They got to keep him healthy and keep his head on straight. He's just sort of been up and down in his career, but he's got the size and the speed to be able to get down the seam and stretch the field as a tight end. Mylan Richard, one of the tight ends, injured and out for the rest of spring, so they'll be without him. We'll have all the Dabo up for you here shortly on our website, sportstalksc.com. Complete review from Clemson's spring practice today from Dabo Swinney. Back in a moment. By the way, other comments from Dabo, he said Deshaun Watson's up to 80% healthy now, so making real good progress with the knee. 2, recruiting. Clemson could land another big one tomorrow. Tigers and others waiting on the announcement coming tomorrow from linebacker Rashawn Smith from IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Last night he announced that he'll be announcing his decision on Thursday, and it will be streamed live online. We're waiting to find out when and where. But Clemson's been viewed as a major player for him since he camped there last summer, went to the Syracuse game last season, and returned for the junior day in late January. His teammate, receiver T.J. Chase, already committed to Clemson. Another target for Clemson at that school, defensive back Savion Smith, surprised some when he committed to LSU and not Clemson. Smith is a native of Baltimore and, of course, very highly regarded. South Carolina looking in good shape with 2017 prospect athlete Carlito Gonzalez, 6'2", 190, from the Stone Mountain area, Stevenson High School, where USC's recruited very well. They've got DJ Neal coming in this year's class from that school, and he's good friends with Gonzalez. Gonzalez will not be in for the junior day Saturday because of a 7-on-7, but he does plan to come in a couple of weeks, and he said he's close on committing, but there's some things that he wants to find out, like the safeties and receivers being recruited and where he would fit in. But he said He really likes South Carolina since they were the first offer. And Neil is also in his ear, pumping South Carolina pretty strongly to him. Kentucky's his only other offer at this point. He's also hearing from Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, and Michigan State. Free safety, who had 30 tackles and 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles last season. The number 1 overall prospect by 24/7 Sports in the class of 2016, defensive tackle Rashawn Gary from Paramus, New Jersey, is going to visit USC next Thursday. Sources have told at 24/7 Sports. South Carolina's been recruiting Gary pretty strongly. He has family ties to the state of South Carolina. He's also considering Clemson pretty strongly as well. And in fact, may make a visit to Clemson while he's in the Palmetto State on his visit. 2017 offensive lineman Cesar Ruiz of Camden, New Jersey, picked up his first offer today. It was from South Carolina. Basketball, 6'4" Jamal Gregory of Washington, who's going to visit South Carolina with his mother. That visit will actually start on Friday. He really likes Frank Martin, and Frank Martin likes him and told him that they like to press up, and they see him being a player that can press up and get steals. He's never been to USC, but he's seen him on television a couple of times. A commitment is not out of the realm of possibility while he's on campus at USC, but he's still considering some other schools as well, like Maryland, Minnesota, and Kansas State. USC may have fallen down the list with transfer Jalen Cena from Seton Hall. Michigan, Stanford, and Boston College seem like the top. And we mentioned Connor Clifford, 7-footer, Saddleback College, picked up an offer from USC and from Washington State. Plans to visit both, according to JUCOJunction.com. Top of the hour. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Been a very busy hour so far. Heading into hour number 2, we've got some time to take some phone calls. Your reaction to what you've heard from Frank Martin, from Dawn Staley, from Dabo Sweeney. Whatever floats your boat from that, 800-956-7266. We'll check out email and comments on our website. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, and the website is sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter @sportstalksc. K-Mac, our Twitterologist, will decipher Twitter. I had an interesting tweet today. Did you see my tweet in that was in Chinese?
Yeah, you've had a few of those in the past couple of weeks where I think you put your phone in your pocket with Twitter up, and
apparently so.
You blind tweet. You better be careful. You're going to end up tweeting something out that you don't want.
How does that go out?
You're going to Anthony Weiner yourself if you're not careful.
Going out all over the world,
and everybody.
Some people.
I just assumed you were drunk again.
No, that wasn't it. I didn't even realize I had done it. Anyway, you can decipher all that on Twitter and on Facebook. You can like us there and follow all our stuff on Facebook as well. Sports Talk Radio Network. So we've got a lot to decipher. South Carolina women, North Carolina women, Friday night. North Carolina still has on their women's team a lot of connections to our state, beginning with the head coach, Sylvia Ryan Hatchell, of course, who really got her career rolling at Francis Marion, and her assistant coach, Hatchell, who stepped in for her when she was sick and took over, did an excellent job, and he's been with her for a long, long time, and is probably the heir apparent to that job. Should she ever decide to retire? Zelina McDaniel from Spring Valley. Now she's out; she's injured. Only played in 12 games this year. Ivory Latta from York is an assistant coach.
She was in the crowd the other day.
Yeah, she's an assistant coach on the team. Yeah, a former great. And looking at their roster, Nadia Bryant averages 5 points a game. She's from Goose Creek.
Yeah. Well, that's when North Carolina was able to come into this state, and they kind of cherry picked who they wanted, the North Carolinas and Tennessees. And you look at Dawn Staley's roster and what she's done, and she has a potential Final Four team, a team that spent a good chunk of the season number 1. And look at how many players she has from the state of South Carolina on that team. Her two bigs, her two best bigs, and Elena Coates and Asia Dozier. They're both from, well, not Asia Dozier, Asia Wilson. They're both from South Carolina. So is Asia Dozier for that matter. But she's built from within and kept those players home. And she's got a few other guys, Tiffany Mitchell from Charlotte, and filled out her roster. But that's how you do it. That's how you have to do it if you're Frank Martin and you're Brad Brownell. You have to keep your best in-state players in state.
Yeah. You think
Noel Johnson,
the kid at North Carolina, Johnson, could play for one of those two teams in state? little more on Connor Clifford, 7-footer offered by South Carolina today or recently. Originally, he's from Huntington Beach, California, and originally signed with Cal Irvine out of high school.
The Anteaters, who had that, 7'6" player in the tournament this year?
This guy is, looking at his pictures, he's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's tall and he's wide, and had a pretty decent year in junior college, as we mentioned, 14.6 rebounds a game. Though if you ask me, now I have never seen him play, don't know what kind of team he plays on, et cetera, et cetera. I like a 7-footer to average closer to 10 boards a game. I think if you're 7 feet, you should be, especially if you're playing, you're not one of those 7-footers who drifts outside, and this guy doesn't look like one of those types. You should get your hands on 9 or 10 boards.
Well, you
a
tell
game.
Frank, maybe you should call him up and say, I think you should back off this guy. Maybe not the best guy for your program.
It's
Frank.
really not my place to do that.
Yeah.
Well, see, my point is he looks like the kind of guy that plays the elbow and high post.
Now, how do we know this based on his picture?
No, you can I'm telling you, you look at a guy his size. You look at a guy his size, and he looks like, they said he's a good passer. That's why I'm saying that.
Mm-hmm.
A guy like that, you put on the high post, he can hit the short jumper and set some mean picks at that high post position. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at South Carolina's offense, that's what you picture him. It's looking at his side.
Well, they need some guys to protect the rim. Those space eaters down low.
This guy averages 1 block a game.
Yeah, they are. They need to get more athletic, as Martin said today.
Mm-hmm.
I think the James Thompson kid that did make it in from Baton Rouge, that was big.
Oh,
what?
You had to mention that name.
Well, that was a big time player for them had he came in.
Emily, I won the bet.
K-Mac mentioned that. Yeah, for obvious reasons he didn't make it in. But that was a pretty. They probably could have used him underneath the basket, especially when they lost Henry. They don't have him.
He would have been a huge help.
Shepard's probably gone.
I would agree. I would agree to a point that they need to be more athletic. But let me use another term. They need to be more aggressive. There's sometimes I see gentleman ball being played out there when an elbow should be thrown. Quite frankly,
you are calling for that. You're calling.
I want you to.
What elbow? I want blood.
I want you to look
dangerous and bad. I am opposed to that.
I want you to look at
a flagrant 2 heartbeat pro
concussion syndrome. This era of being concerned about concussions and headaches.
We didn't say hit toward the head, but here's the deal: watch West Virginia tomorrow against Kentucky. And don't look at the ball. Look under the basket and see what's going on under there.
A lot of positioning, a lot of elbows up. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
elbows to the gut.
One of the West Virginia players was quoted as saying today, I guess it was at their news conference, that Kentucky's going to finish 36-1.
Yeah, that's smart to say.
Good luck with that.
Shake the tree, watch the leopards fall out.
800-956-7266 is our number. Lines are open. Email talkback, sportstalksc.com. Last night, congratulations to Coastal Carolina. Terrific win for them against South Carolina, a game that went back and forth. And the Coastal, red hot right now. That's 9 wins in a row for them, and they've beaten South Carolina. They've beaten Clemson. They've beaten North Carolina. They've beaten Michigan State. They've beaten Georgia Tech. They've beaten, I think, Wake Forest.
They're good.
They've got an excellent resume going for them. Now, they play Winthrop this weekend, and they beat UNC Asheville last week in the Open Big South play, swept that. But now Winthrop, which also has beaten South Carolina, which also has beaten Clemson, big series coming up in the Big South between those
How about
rivals.
The Big South?
Yeah.
That's big time. That conference has had to do some reshuffling, but they're really making some hay in the football ranks with Coastal Carolina #1 for a majority of the season. Basketball, they had a lot of wins in the Big South in basketball over some power teams, as Clip Ellis pointed out, begrudgingly shortly before they were slapped with a 16 seed, and now baseball. What they're doing,
which is why if you're Wofford, teams like that, which is why there's some angst about letting them into the SoCon.
Is the Big South creeping up on the Southern Conference, top to bottom, in terms of the quality of its athletics?
I think they're breathing down their necks. They hadn't creeped up. They're down there.
Yeah,
necks.
Wofford is still in basketball. You're talking about just overall.
Yeah.
Baseball wise, it's not close really now that Charleston's gone.
Let's face it, the SoCon is in a state of flux
Mhm.
at this point. Losing the College of Charleston, and who else did they lose? Appalachian State,
Georgia
Southern's
gone.
So in the state of flux, even though they did pick up Mercer, it's still in the state of flux.
And that's why I wasn't a big fan of Charleston leaving the Southern Conference, and I still cringe when they're playing Northeastern instead of the Citadel or Furman or Wofford. But yeah, looking at it from an economic standpoint and seeing what's happened to the Southern Conference, it probably made sense for them to go ahead and make that move and get into that, a bigger conference for them. But now they're looking for players down there. I know that when I spent the weekend in Charleston, I had a lot of Grant's like everybody else. Earl Grant, he's just looking for big men and looking for talent down there.
The Southern Conference needs Furman to have a revival in football and basketball.
Yes,
they really do. Considering App's gone and Georgia Southern's gone, they need some of the old heads to kind of step up. Now, Wofford, you can count on them in basketball. Their football was down a little bit last year, but they'll be back under Mike Ayers. No question about that. The Citadel is getting better in football. I have no doubt that Mike Houston is going to be very successful there. And
Houston doesn't have a problem?
I don't think he does, especially when he gets his quarterback in there, used to running his system. Of course, they're going to start over again with their basketball program. Their baseball is still pretty solid. But, you look around the Big South and you see what Coastal Carolina's doing. You look at what Charleston Southern is doing football, basketball-wise. You look at what Liberty is doing, and Liberty is going to spend a lot of money to get the right coach in their basketball program. They've got tons of money to spend. Their football program it can be very good. And we know their baseball program with Jim Toman is very good. So, maybe the Big South is – even though RPI-wise, it always comes out, I think. Well, you know what? I think baseball season last year, the Big South RPI might have been higher than the Southern Conference. Basketball-wise, I think it still slants a little bit towards the Southern.
Either way, when you look at the Furman football, Furman used to do one heck of a job of recruiting Georgia. They need to get back to that. I think they're getting back to that. As far as Charleston and Coastal Carolina is concerned, any athletic team, if you don't use geography, something other teams maybe can't use to sell your school, you come down to the Holy City or you go near Myrtle Beach, hey, you lose it out. You got to use geography when you recruit these guys. Make sure you take them to the water.
All right. We had Dawn Staley on with us earlier in the program. They were on their way to Greensboro on the bus, going up Tobacco Road to take on North Carolina Friday night. That should be a heck of a game. I think South Carolina sold out all its fan buses heading to Greensboro. I think I read that. But, of course, there are plenty of tickets left. I mean, the Coliseum.
You might be able to sit next to Baseline Jesus on one of those buses.
Possibly so. Possibly so. But that place seats 20,000, so there'll be plenty of tickets for anybody who wants to go up there and watch the South Carolina women. I would imagine South Carolina, with those buses going up and others driving up and walking up and buying tickets, 6,000 Gamecock fans.
And that's a really cool place, as you know, Corn. That is a really neat venue to watch a college basketball game. Really anything. That's just a cool building. It's easy to get to. Greensboro's a nice little – I didn't realize – I always forget I go to Greensboro once a year or so, but it's, it takes 2.5 hours from Columbia to get up there. It's a very easy drive to Greensboro. So, worth the trip if you're looking to cross something off your bucket list.
If there's any indication of how they may travel, is the early season game at Cameron, when at some points in the game you thought there were more South Carolina fans in Cameron Indoor Stadium than they were Duke fans during that women's game when they upset the Blue Devils.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll be back. 800-956-7266 is the number. All right, some notes from the Clemson scrimmage statistically. Nick Schuessler was 11 of 18 for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Look out, Deshaun Watson. You can't get healthy fast enough with Nick Schuessler breathing down your neck. Jordan Leggett caught a scoring pass from Schuessler, had another 21-yard reception, Kia drive. Mike Williams also caught a touchdown pass. Wayne Gallman, C.J. Fuller had rushing touchdowns during the – where's the defense? Jermone Hopper had most catches with 5.
Fire Venables.
Artavis Scott had 4. Fuller had 53 rushing yards to lead the ball carriers.
How many end-around sweeps, jet sweeps did
not say.
Scott have? Still running.
Defense, Ben Boulware.
The official athlete of Sports Talk.
He's the backup from last year, but the starter this year led all defenders with 4 tackles for loss. Shaq Lawson had 3 sacks. Jerron Kearse had the only interception of the day. So there you go with some of the numbers from the Clemson scrimmage. South Carolina goes back to work tomorrow. That'll be closed to the public and the media. In fact, the next 3 practices for the Gamecocks, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, all closed as of now. Now, you know Spurrier can open things up at any time, and they're scheduled to scrimmage on Saturday.
So that means there's going to be some hitting going on.
I would imagine so. I would imagine so. It's supposed to be a little bit more physical spring for South Carolina. I imagine that they're knocking it around a pretty good bit. Let's see, K-Mac, let's take a look at our Twitter feed at Sports Talk SC, and what are people chirping about on Twitter?
Brian tweets, Core in the Big South has passed the SoCon in relevance, talent, and performance. Hashtag FB, hashtag MBB, hashtag BB, all 3 sports.
Wow.
Corned beef
How about a hashtag corned beef hash? All right, what else you got?
Or just hash.
Just hash.
Reggie Anderson tweeted Frank Martin's expression at the news conference when
who is
the
that?
Final question.
Who's that?
Reggie Anderson.
I don't know anybody by that name. Is he still working?
Frank Martin does have a classic face. You need to check that out if you are near your Twitter feed. Go to Sports Talk SC. You can see that. A lot of people responding to Dabo's comments that Deshaun Watson is 80%, and he said that he's actually healthier than he was when he beat South Carolina.
Dabo did say that.
Dabo did say that. He's healthier than he was when he beat South Carolina. And so take that. Clemson fans are loving it.
Will that be considered a zinger?
No.
I think it could be considered a zinger. It probably wasn't, but everybody has their antennas up. I know the Clemson Insider put a zinger, a shot at South Carolina by Dabo. I mean, hey, when you win that game, everything is going to be perceived as a zinger from the winning coach.
And
when you mention the other school's name, if you Steve Spurrier says that team in the upstate zinger automatically. If you mention it, neither fan base likes it when the other head coach mentions their school.
Yeah.
Don't worry about your own team. Don't worry about ours.
More sports talk coming up. All right, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our number. More from Clemson's first scrimmage, of the spring coming up here in just a little bit. We'll hear from Brent Venables, Tigers defensive coordinator, and get his thoughts about the way his guys look today. Tigers inside Death Valley today for the first time this spring. A couple of other notes coming out of that. Chris Register, a redshirt freshman, moved from linebacker to defensive end today, just to give him a little bit of a look there to see how he might fit in at that position. And as we mentioned as well, Mylan Richards going to miss the rest of spring as he is dealing with an injury. I believe it was a torn ligament in his ankle. That is what it is. Redshirt freshman tight end Mylan Richard going to miss the spring game, rest of spring, torn ligament in his ankle. So that's coming out of Clemson's practice today. Now, Brent Venables, of course, dealing with a bunch of new folks after having lost so many good players from last year, number one defense in the country. People will be expecting more of the same. Maybe that's too much to expect. Time will tell. And he was asked after today's scrimmage just how good or how bad his guys looked on the defensive side.
Pretty good. I mean, there's some good and some situations not so good. Got to do a better job of having discipline, jumped off sides in some critical situations, some give and take, some short yardage. Gave up a couple of plays in the red zone. But the ones overall, outside of jumping off sides, give up a long, give up a run, misfitted a zone play one time. A PI, next long situation. You got to eliminate some of those mistakes. If we do, it can be a pretty solid group. So, but twos, some good and some not so good, like always. So it was a good competitive day.
As you work your way through this, Brent, just talk about how you're just trying to use the spring to kind of go one practice at a time. Because you don't have to be ready to go, obviously, for September once this thing is going. But what are your goals through the spring?
Develop, find, what guys can do and what they can't do, who's consistent, who you can count on, who your leaders are, trying to develop chemistry. Giving some young guys that maybe redshirted a year ago, giving them some opportunities, switching up some guys in the first group that goes out. We switched the safety up, switch the backer up, and switch the corner up, and give some other guys some opportunities and see if they can have the same kind of success they're having maybe with the second group, with the ones and vice versa. So trying to make it, and again, that's through grading every practice, every competitive situation, really having to keep track of that a little bit more when there's more uncertainty. And so that, after 7 or 8, 9, 10, 12 practices in the spring, you can really quantify a depth chart and quantify performance, recognize performance and not just potential. So, just mixing and matching, again, finding out who can play competitive winning football. It certainly won't be perfect. That's why we got practice, and that's why they call us coach. But who can play winning football for us? So trying to stress some guys out.
You mentioned that leadership through 8. Have you kind of starting to see that? Who's stepping forward for those leadership roles?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. There's some guys that are trying to. And leaders, again, you got to, judge them by, being consistent. Through 8 practice, we'll see, who those guys are. Leaders, you got to earn that. You can't anoint guys leaders just because you're a senior or you're a returning player. You got to leader means you're a good leader. There's good leaders and there's not so good leaders, and then there's great leaders. We had great leadership, and so we're trying to bring guys along. A lot of the post-practice talk, post-scrimmage talk is about how to be a good leader, how to handle adversity, how to know situations, how to communicate, how to have what kind of demeanor to have on the sideline, owning failures or when there's a bust, how to communicate, with your teammates on the sideline, get off a knee, stay off the bench, all those things. You're looking. That's leadership. Good or bad. So, like I said, maybe you get a call in late. Guys. Are they handling that the right way? Just you name it. Maybe you demote somebody middle of the drive. How do they handle that? A good leader, a guy that you would call a good leader, is going to handle that. And he's going to correct a mistake. Or tap you on the shoulder and say, "Coach, man, I got that. Please put me back." And then the bad leaders will go there and pout and feel bad for himself. So that's what you love about practice, game simulation. You get a lot of those opportunities as a coach to foster, develop it, identify it, correct it, find out a lot about guys. And then again, you kind of judge it over the long haul. Everybody has a bad day, coach and player alike, so it's not going to be a perfect effort. And anyway, at the end of the day, for today with our ones, I thought there was a lot that you can feel good about, and then again, just some little things we had to correct. We worked hard about hard counts, and we didn't handle the situations a couple times the right way.
Okay, Brent Venables, after the Tigers scrimmage today inside Death Valley, you look at their depth chart on defense, and on the defensive line, they've got three guys that have played a lot: Shaq Lawson, DJ Reader, Carlos Watkins. Now you're asking Kevin Dodd to finally come into his own at the other defensive end spot, at least right now. Behind them, this is where it gets a little dicey because you've got guys that haven't played at all. Ebo's played none. Jabril Robinson, Scott Pagano, Sterling Johnston's a freshman. Al Buggins is a freshman. Richard Juergens redshirted. So if any of those first four, and Kevin Dodd hasn't played very much, but if any of those front four go down, they're going to be very inexperienced in the backup role there. But those guys do look good on paper in terms of their abilities and athleticism. Linebackers look good. Blanks, Goodson's been a player that they've really liked. He's come on strong. Of course, Bolware has really stood out. You're going to see Dorian O'Daniel play a good bit in some linebacker position. Really, it's the secondary that I think is really going to shine for them again this year. Mackenzie Alexander, one of the best in the country at corner. Cordray Tankersley on the other side. You got Marcus Edmond and Ryan Carter backing up. Adrian Baker also. They like Caleb Chalmers, the freshman from Greenwood. Think he's going to be a good player. And their safeties, Jadar Johnson, Jerron Kearse, and Corden Wiggins, factoring in there in some way, some form or fashion at corner or nickel, whatever the case may be. So, even though they lost so many terrific players from last year's team, they have got talent to step in. It's just going to be inexperienced in some areas. That could cause a bit of a hiccup or two. We saw that with South Carolina. We've seen that with other defenses in recent years.
But unlike South Carolina, Clemson at least has veterans in the secondary. You can hide one area, but you can't mask two. The difficulty with Clemson is I think early on their secondary is going to be asked to really cover their guys of maybe a couple of more seconds than they're used to with those seniors they had rushing the passer last year, including Vic Beasley. So I think they got the veteran leadership that can hold the fort in the secondary while the front seven are.
Who's going to be Shaq Lawson? Maybe that's going to dominate up front.
I think he's capable.
Yeah, and he apparently had a good scrimmage. And that's the other thing. They have some new faces, but they have some guys that have been in their program and have played a lot of snaps in significant roles. Ben Bolware has played significant
He
snaps.
tweeted at us.
Well, he is the official athlete of Sports Talk.
Yeah.
We told him we can't pay him. What did he say? Oh, he wants us to pay him a cookie.
Yeah. So Ben Bolware, a fan of Sports Talk, not only just the official athlete of Sports Talk.
Well, we've had a love-hate relationship. He had blocked us for a while, but we're friends again.
Oh, okay, for a while.
Yeah.
And we're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, K-Mac Kevin McCrary, the Steak Man Graham Pope. Once again, behind the bulletproof glass, 800-956-7266, the number. If you want to join us, another basketball recruiting note. I've run across John Carlos Reyes, 6'10 center. He's from Georgia, a player that USC and Clemson have looked at during the recruiting campaign. Is going to visit Penn State beginning tomorrow. So he's getting out on the recruiting trail. We'll see. And I don't know if South Carolina or Clemson is going to move on him strongly enough to bring him in for a visit, but they have watched him, scouted him, and talked to him from time to time. Clemson baseball team, big win for them last night up at Western Carolina. Tigers seem to be getting it into gear a little bit after taking 2 out of 3 at Virginia Tech, then going up to Western Carolina, taking care of business. Their Tigers will be back at home. They've got a 10-game homestand now, so a chance to make some hay. Yeah. Make some hay. Beginning against Wake Forest this weekend. We'll try and catch up with Jack Leggett tomorrow night. Also, of course, coming up this weekend, you've got the Carol's All-Star Classic down in Myrtle Beach. We'll be there Friday night from Myrtle Beach High School for the skills competition. Looking forward to seeing the state's leading scorer this year and one of the all-time leading scorers in South Carolina boys basketball history, averaged 40 points per game this year. Deion Holmes from Chesney, second leading scorer in state history, had over 3,000 points in his career, averaged over 40 points per game this year. Looking forward to seeing what he can do, see if he's going to light it up or try to just fit in with the rest of the guys. It's a good lineup on the South Carolina side. Of course, you've got the Holmes kid, as I mentioned. You've also got Tevin Mack from Dreer will be there. He's a tremendous scorer. No P.J. Dozier, because I believe the McDonald's game is this weekend, is it not? Or am I confused on that? Is he? I think he's tied up in some other game.
I thought that was next week.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
And they don't play that on the weekend. They play that on a Monday or Tuesday night.
Well, maybe it's practice. Maybe they're in Chicago for practice. Why don't you look that up, State
I'll
Man,
find
for
out
me?
where
Yeah,
the
see if
game is.
Practice, man.
See if they have put those bringing those guys in Chicago for practice. But you've got Carl Gamble Jr.
So that would be the same week. Yeah, they're probably up there.
April 1st is the game. Yes, I'm sure they're up there practicing. The South Carolina Boys All-Stars, Carl Gamble Jr. from Flora. I mentioned Deion Holmes, Jawan Washington from Cross, Tevin Mack, Tyler Hooker from Hillcrest, very good player, Malik Dunbar from Spring Valley, and Brown from TR, Jalen Williams from Wade Hampton, Matthew Pegram from Wando, who is, let's see, he signed, I want to say he signed with Wofford. I think he did. Marius Logan from White Knoll. That's the boys' team. The girls' team, Taylor Petty from Dorman, Tiana Swearinger from Greenwood.
DJ's
sister, I believe.
Yeah. Little what do you call boy her? Swaggette. I don't know. jungle girl swag. Jungle girl
Think
swag.
She's got gold teeth?
No. Probably not.
Yeah. Keasia Jackson from Irmo. Dashanique Peterson from Kingstree. Shawnice Fulmore from Lake City. Jalea Lassane from Mullins, DeJoria Howard from OW, and her teammate, Jaquana Murray. Nija Davis from Sumter, and Destiny Walker from West Florence. That's the South Carolina girls team. On the North Carolina boys team, looking forward to seeing Luke May from Cornelius, a player Clemson recruited. He's going to North Carolina. That's Mark May's son, the former Tar Heel quarterback. Clemson recruited him. It came down to Clemson, North Carolina, and Davidson. I think he's going to North Carolina as a walk-on.
Maye.
And probably on some sort of academic scholarship like that. What's that big scholarship they give you in Chapel Hill? Oh, it's called the sociology program. No,
that's
no. I'm sorry. It's called the African American Studies program.
Oh, is that what it is?
No, what's that? What's that scholarship?
I have no idea.
There is a very famous scholarship. I'm just looking at the girls' side to see if there's anybody I reckon. I'm just looking at some of the names. Razia Farrington is one of the North Carolina girls. Razia. And there is Radia Razia and Radia. Razia Farrington and Radia Rogers. Anyway, we'll be there. And the skills competition, open to the public, Myrtle Beach High School. And the cool thing about this is at the end of the night, after they do the three-point shooting for the boys and the girls, and they have their separate winners, they pair the boys' winner against the girls' winner in a showdown for it all. And more often than not, the girl comes away with the victory in the three-point shooting contest. We'll be back to wrap it up in a moment. NCAA men's tournament, it cranks back up tomorrow. It's the left side of your bracket playing tomorrow. In the Midwest, you've got, of course, number 1 seed, undefeated Kentucky against West Virginia. This is in Cleveland. That'll be the second game. The first game, Wichita State and Notre Dame. Really rooting for Greg Marshall. Love to see Greg Marshall get his team back to the Final Four.
Gil Marshall.
Yeah, with 2 G's.
Well, here's the key. The key point is I have him in my Elite 8, and I have him playing Kentucky with the chance to, since Kentucky ruined his undefeated season last year, now he tries to
Somebody in Rock Hill once
kind.
told me that extra G stands for God, I'm great.
Now, do you think the committee, looking down the road, you think they put Kentucky and Wichita State in the same regional with the knowing the possibility of a rematch existed in the same circumstances?
Yes,
they'll say no,
yeah,
but I think they
think about those things
Yeah,
when they're
I
in that
think they
room.
did.
I mean, that tournament is made for TV. I mean, they want that, and I don't blame them.
Sure.
If we were sitting in that room, we would do the same thing. Well, how can we get the best matchups, best storylines? You know, the fact that Wichita State and Kansas finally got to play, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That happened, and
All right, so we've got Kentucky will beat West Virginia.
Yes.
And how about Notre Dame, Wichita State?
Boy, that's going to be a good. But Notre Dame's playing really well right now. They look good in Greensboro. That was a heck of a win they had in overtime this week.
I picked Wichita State in this one because I think that the X factor for Notre Dame is their guard play. I think with Van Vliet in that crowd, they can neutralize that, and they have the athletic bigs that can go out on Connaughton, who loves to circle around the three-point line and bury you. That's what kills you. Notre Dame has the great guards, Jerry and Grant, I don't think they really have an answer for him. He may have all he could eat.
I got to go with Notre Dame. I think they've just got too much talent.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I just got to go with Notre Dame.
I'm going with
I'm
Wichita
going
State.
with the
All right.
blue blood school.
Let's go to L.A. and the first game will be North Carolina, Wisconsin.
I have my bracket, which is in the 21st percentile nationally now. I think I'm like 10 millionth out of 13 million on the Bojangles bracket buster. But I am taking Notre Dame as my upset. North Carolina was my upset special.
How about you, Pro?
I'm picking Wisconsin in this one. For some reason, they really can dissect the team. North Carolina is going to have to really accelerate.
Bryce Johnson on Frank the Tank. The question is, how healthy is Kennedy Meeks? Is he going to be able to play? Is he well again? He was struggling with his health this past weekend. How healthy is he? I'm going to go with Wisconsin. They look loaded. Xavier, Arizona.
Arizona.
Okay, there you go. Take our advice and leave it at home.
But the big kid at Wisconsin reminds me of a faster Kevin McHale.
Yeah,
he's got all those pivot moves inside, plus a quick step.
Have yourselves a great night. Thank you for being with us here on Sports Talk. We'll be back tomorrow night. We'll talk to you then.